Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome AFG College and University of Aberdeen family. My name is Mohammed Alhayder. I am a certified life coach and a positive psychologist from Qatar. And today we are going to look at the topic of coping with difficulties using emotional intelligence. So for the time being, I want to give a bit of time for people to join, as I'm sure now more people are joining. And I would like to hear from you. What brought you here? So before we share the screen, before we're getting everybody in, let me just connect with you because you came on time. So what it is that brought you to this session? What do you hope to get? So let's see what is there. All right, I am just kind of waiting for answers. Naveen, I'm not sure if anybody is answering or still. So if you can go to the chat box and write in there what really brought you here. Yeah, Tony, I know, man. I know it is quite a stressful time. It's full of ambiguity. It's full of a lot of issues happening when it comes even to family, friends, people back home if you are away, and quarantine. That's a bit of challenging time for all of us. And really the question is what it is that we can do. As more people coming in, so if I can get more people, yes, all right, to learn how to think positively. I like your nickname as well, to think positively. So we want to think more positive. Great. What else? What else is there? As we're waiting for others. It is not an easy time for us to really cope with these kind of challenges. We have a lot of hopes, we have a lot of aspirations, we have a lot of expectations, but unfortunately, it's not there. I just would like to check with Jad. If you just let me know, do we have now more people joining in? Yeah. Okay. And yeah, so we have some people here saying, I believe one of the things that we had to deal with during the crisis, to deal with the stress and sudden change, and how to adapt with that. And then another point is where unequally difficult times, I guess. Uniquely difficult times, absolutely. It's like the whole world, like sometimes we feel like it's just one place, especially when COVID-19 started, we thought, oh my God, this is just in China. It's never going to come back to us. It's not going to come to us. But it actually came to us, and we are going through a lot. Great. So a lot of points on few points on how to think positively about the future. That is great. And then we have emotional intelligence is a very important topic on everyday life. Absolutely, absolutely, it is. So let me now. Great, great. So let me share with you the screen, and I would like to actually meet you even more, you know, because you can see my face, but I cannot really see you. That is quite interesting. So just a second, let me just share that. Okay. That's it. Okay, so basically I have two screens, so that's why you would notice that I may not look at you guys, and yeah. So one of the interesting things in there. Apologies. Let me just bring that in there. Like this. All right. So before we actually get started, let me just. I assume now you can see the screen, right? Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jad. Thank you. So before we get started, let me get to introduce myself. My name is Mohammed Alhayder, and as I said, I have a certification in emotional intelligence, practitioner and assessor from 6 Seconds, as well as a certified life coach, and I have a master's in positive psychology. For the past, I would imagine 13 years, I've been working with people. So from people engagement, people development, people transformation, and people training, assessment, so on and so forth. So I enjoy working with people. And before that, I was studying my bachelor in the UK. So to give you a bit of like sort of perspective of, you know, why do I look like this and I speak like this? So I lived in the UK for 4 years when I did my bachelor's. That was full time, and I was really blessed to be exposed to live abroad, and to have a diverse mindset. And then after that, I did 2 years part time in the UK. That's when I did my master's in positive psychology. So today we're going to talk about how can we cope with difficulties using emotional intelligence. And what I will need from you guys is I need your participation. I need your engagement, because I like to build on the collective wisdom that is there in the room. And I like to connect with you as well. I don't just want to connect with my slides, with my content. I like to make my content fluid. It's just like we are having a conversation, if you like, more than just a presentation. All right. So if you can tell me, I assume now more people are joining. If you can let me know where you are from, and so your name and where you're from, and it's not just for me, it's for everyone to see as well. And what do you hope to get out of this? I know you told me that, you know, stress brought you here, that what brought you. But if there is a result that you want to get at the end of the session, what would that be? So if you can, again, name, where you're from, and what do you hope to get at the end of these 2 hours? So I'm looking back at my screen so I can see. All right. It sometime might takes time to actually see your answers. So I'm waiting now. So if we can get to know what is your name, where you're from, and what do you hope to get? Emma from Spain. 26. I'm worried about the future on all levels, career, life. All right. Nice to meet you, Emma. Hola. Habla español un poquito. That's when I was in the UK. I learned bits and pieces. Fadi is a consultant, working in Ministry of Education, and came from Texas. Nice to meet you. And it will be nice to know what it is that you're trying to get out of this, Fadi. And the rest as well. What kind of results do you want to get? And again, to make the most out of that session, I will need your interaction in here, all right? So let me see, we have more people looking forward to learn some information that will help my kids and our students at the school system. Yeah, emotional intelligence is a very, very, very great tool for that. And I think we need to apply it on the national level, wherever, especially at this time, it is quite important. All right, so as some people joining in and adding some, information about them. I know how people sometimes react behind the screen. You just want to sit down and lay back and stuff, which is fine. So today's main objective is we want to look at how can we learn from emotional intelligence to cope. And the main thing here is we're going to use emotional intelligence as a tool, and we're using the 6 seconds model here. And that is what we will try to have a look. So before we start, make sure that you have your notebook and pen so you can take some notes and ask your questions whenever you want. Naveen is taking care of the questions, so she's going to look at the questions and then she's going to send them to me, and then I'm going to see them. And mute your mic when you don't want to share anything. I'm not sure, Jad, if people can talk. Is that possible for people to talk? No, they cannot. Just type. Okay. So we will have to work with what we have. So you don't need to mute your mic. All right. So let's go on this small exercise. What I'd like you to do is I want you to look at these different quotations and read them and just look at what really resonates with you, what really talks to you, what kind of quote talks to you. And I numbered them, so they have numbers in there. So if you can share the numbers, that will be great. And when you share the number, just tell us why that resonates, what it is that is making this one talk to you. Right, so as you're reading through, I'm going to read some of the answers. Yeah, so we have Gina from Lebanon. Welcome, Gina. Hope I can cope better with uncertainty. Uncertainty is another thing that disturbs us. We have a student from AFG who would like to learn how to deal with this pandemic. We have Shuaib here, how to ask difficult questions in very sensitive situations, especially relatives and bosses. Ooh, that's an interesting one. And Mohammed Arfan want to learn how to handle emotional intelligence to handle different situations in personal and professional life. Ahlam from Yemen, welcome Ahlam, and hoping to learn how to cope and react. So it's really about these kind of unexpected, uncertain kind of situations that we are in right now, and we'd like to cope with them. So I would like you to look at these kind of quotations in there, and let me know which of these resonate with you and why. So let's have 2 minutes. To see which of these resonates. So let's see. We have a few ones. If you can let me know, guys, if you can see that, or okay. So we have one person. Hey, Anis from Birmingham. Hi, Anis. Friend of mine, very close friend of mine in Birmingham. That's when I was in the UK. To gain your unique insights, having enjoyed your content in the past. Thank you, bro. Nice to have you here. Right, Gina, number 5. So if you can tell us what it is that it makes it resonate with you. If you can find a path with no obstacles, it probably doesn't lead anywhere. And you're right, which means that any kind of success and achievement we want to have, we're going to have obstacles in there. And when there's no obstacles, you're going to go like, am I in the right path or not? So number 12 resonates. And that is, we cannot teach people anything. We can only help them discover it within themselves. Absolutely. You deal with different people every day. If you don't really know them well, it's going to be hard to connect and get through to them. Yeah, you are absolutely right. And knowing self is the key to mastering self. And knowing people is the key to mastering relationships. Absolutely. So if we can move ahead, I simply have 2 ground rules. And these ground rules, they are open heart and open mind. What we mean by open mind is to have your mind to be curious. One of the key ways for us to learning, to growth, to solve problems is to have a curious mind, to always ask questions and not just sit in there with just taking things as they are. I'm sure you would have some ideas about emotional intelligence and about coping. I want you as well to add to these by being curious about what is going on in your thoughts, what is going on in your feelings, in your heart. If your feelings are in your heart, and sometimes your feelings are in different part of the body, be curious about each other as well. Try to get curious about others' perspective when they put these kind of stuff, about the content that we have, about the world. That is going to get us to move forward. And the other ground rule is an open heart. And one of the challenges that we have when it comes to dealing with emotions is we suppress. We don't listen to that emotion. We don't allow it to just process, to move, to flow. So let's have an open heart, and just if you have any kind of emotions in there, if there is any trigger, just allow that to flow, and bring your curious mind to be curious about these emotions. Curiosity gives you insight, all right? So this is with our ground rule. And try your best to always share your thoughts, share your questions, guys. This is going to help me to build on what you know, to connect to what you know. So let me again ask you another question here. What are your coping strategies? So when you cope with difficulties, what kind of strategies do you use? I know I'm asking a lot of questions, and I really want to assess where we are at, right, guys, in the beginning. So what are your coping strategies in there? Let me see if anybody's there. No one yet? All right. So some people would cope with difficulties in the way that they would distract themselves. They would go and maybe YouTubing, as I call it, and Googling, Instagramming, Netflixing, trying to just avoid that. Other people would find it really challenging to get out of that difficulty. And one of the ways that they deal with that is is basically think too much about it, overthinking. You know, some people would call it negative thinking. Here we have Shu'aib. Some people won't deal with difficult topics. They push it under the carpet. If you bring it up, you seem like a troublemaker. Absolutely, because when we are not able to handle difficulties, what we try to do, we try to not know about it. I don't want to know. Ignorance is a bliss. If I bring it up, I'm going to get these emotions out, so I don't want to bring that. This is one of the ways that some people deal with it. Plan, do anything practical to sort the distract oneself. Sometimes the planning helps. Sometimes we're trying to look at the future, but we get stuck in what is called the present. Careful and calculative move, absolutely, and again, these kind of strategies would help, but sometimes we can get stuck. Keep my mouth shut and go with the flow. Yeah, and that is interesting. You know, it's like we would ask the question of, is it really helpful? Is it useful? And how long I'm going to keep my mouth shut? And you know, maybe I need to open my mouth, but how would I do that? So we have Amna here. She wants to think more positively. All right. So these are some of the probably coping strategies that you might use, guys. Now, when we go to the next slide. So one of the things that we're going to look at is how emotional intelligence can help us to master your emotions, take charge of self and situations, build and maintain relationships, and increase hope and resiliency. These are some of the stuff that emotional intelligence can help us with. We're going to reflect on these parts. So one of the studies by, not one, I think they've done few studies, 6 seconds, on emotional intelligence. And what they have seen is there is a correlation between emotional intelligence and what they call the success factors, which are relationships, well-being, quality of life, and effectiveness. And, you know, it's like when we are not in a good mood, when we are not in good emotion or positive emotion, what happens? We would go and maybe sometimes we go violent on the people that we love or even the people that we work with. Sometimes we go into silent, and being in silence can actually hurt the relationship as much as violent. Sometimes it would just hit us in terms of our well-being, our energy, our sleep, even our physical well-being. And it might as well hurt our quality of life. You know, it's like some people, when they get emotionally drained, they would just isolate themselves and they wouldn't be satisfied about life. And sometimes as well, it can impact our performance, our effectiveness. You know, we wouldn't be able to work well and achieve more. Some people here as well said that, using meditation is a great tool to use, absolutely, to help you cope. So the things that we're going to look at today, we're going to look at emotional intelligence. We're going to look at what it is and how it's relevant to life success. What does emotion mean? The word emotion, what does it mean? And how can you stop your emotion from hijacking the rational? How can you increase your sense of freedom to make more conscious choices? And how to understand people better, to have better relationship with them. So we're going to look at these kind of stuff, but also what I'd like you to do, guys, I want you to ask questions. I want you to hold me accountable to answer your questions, but also I want you to be responsible for getting the most out of this session. All right? So what do you think is emotional intelligence, and why is it important? And I will give you about 1 minute to think about that. So we already talked about why emotional intelligence is important already. And the question is what it is. What does emotional intelligence mean? There's no right or wrong answer, guys. Again, I am building on what you have, and I like to engage with people. Do we have any answers, or shall I move forward, Naveen? Okay, so as you are answering that, I am going to move forward with that. So basically, this is just very quickly, I'm using the 6 seconds model, and they have a lot of different kind of resources in their website, if you like, that you can go to. Now, again, that's another exercise. I would like you guys to use now your paper, your notebook, and I want you to write that, because this exercise, that is the one that we're going to link everything else towards it. So let's have 2 minutes. Let's have 2 minutes. I am going to have some music on, because that is where you're going to have the information that we have and apply it. So what I'd like you to do is I want you to have a piece of paper. And with that piece of paper, I want you to divide it into 3 parts, okay? So if I have, for example, a piece of paper from here, I'll show you now. Excuse me, guys. So you simply have this paper, divide it into 3 parts, all right? Even if you don't have it, it's okay. What you can do is you can just, on the notebook, you can draw 3 lines. So it's going to be this, and this. We have more questions in there. I'm gonna get back to them, but let me just finish this. So have your paper, just do it this way, okay? And then on one side, on your left hand side, what I want you to do is just write now, or reality. And on your right hand side, I want you to write aspiration, okay? So you have reality and aspiration on each side, and the middle is going to be empty. So what I'd like you to write on the top, on the top corners, right and left corners, what I want you to do is, with the reality part, I want you to put a metaphor on how do you see your life going right now? How is your life right now? If you can put your life in a metaphor. So let me give you an example. So One example would be somebody feels that they are in the desert. This is how they feel. They are alone. There is a lot of loneliness in there, and they have a lot of packs on the top of their shoulder. Can you see that? So this is one example. I'm putting this kind of drawing in there, okay? So that is an example of you put a metaphor to how you see your life. And then the other one is you draw how do you want your life to be. So for example, that guy wants his life to be in a park with some water and smiling in there, okay? So this is basically what the other part is, yeah? So this is inspiration, and that is reality. And I want you to draw that on the top corners, reality and aspiration. And as you drawing this, I want you to put some words into it. So what does that mean for you? The boxes on the shoulder or on the back, is it like too much weight? Is it being overwhelmed? The loneliness, do you feel isolated from people? Do you feel that there is no connection in there? So I want you to put some words in there. You don't have to write an essay in there. Just write some words. And then go into aspiration and do the same thing, all right? So let me go and read some of the stuff in there. So some people looked at emotional intelligence as understanding your own feelings and the society around you, yeah? We cannot live alone. We live in communities. It's important to know how we feel and how we make others feel. Absolutely. We are social beings. Being able to deal with difficult situations in a smart way, the ability to understand how we feel. So part of it, yes, part of it is to understand feeling. Some people say that it's about self-discipline. It's about an inner feeling. Trying to distract myself out of the situation. It takes time to accept a certain change. The challenge, Ihlam, is distracting can help, but in the short run, short term. Sometimes things will pile up and it will not help. So if you can write for us what are the metaphors that you had. So let's wait for some of the metaphors that you've got. Okay, let's see what we have. Acknowledgement, acknowledging emotion, differentiate and analyze, accept, appreciation. That's great, my friend, anonymous. Handling these emotions. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's great. So I'll just exactly give you another minute, and what I'd like you to do is I want you to share what kind of metaphors you have for aspiration and future. Let's see. All right, being able to understand all these emotions, life slowly draining away. So I just want to make sure that you guys have done that so I can move forward and you can hopefully connect the dots. Okay. All right. Okay, great. Okay, so I assume that you have done that now. So we're going to connect now. All right. So one of the things that we want to look at is, not sure why the slide has gone. Just 1 second. Guys, there's something here with the slides. Just give me a minute. Yeah. All right. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind and have that on the side as we have the metaphors, okay? Now what I'd like you to do is I want you to think about a situation. When you get out of control and you reacted in a less rational way, what was your story? And what do you think got your emotions to take the steering wheel away from you? And just think about that situation. When we get out of control, what really happens? Why all of these kind of challenges happen to us? What it is that is making, you know, the emotions take over? So let's see. What do you have, guys, in there? So as you're getting that done, I just want you to think about that and what it is that really makes our emotions lose that, if you like, you know, we go into this kind of situation where we lose it, right? And emotions take over. I want you to think about a particular situation. What was it that got your emotions to take the steering wheel? And what I'm going to be doing here, I'm going to, as you're writing this down, I'm just going to share a video with you guys on that. Okay, so let's see if people have replied. The lack of understanding how to express and act in a rational way, even when we are so emotional. So let me play that video for you. Just give me a second. Then I'm going to share the screen.
When customers are dissatisfied with your service, their feelings can run high. They may have emotional outbursts which seem impossible to deal with.
Okay. Okay, so let me share this. Okay, so I assume you can see this, guys. Yes? All right, great. So this video about something that is called emotional hijack or amygdala hijack. And it simply explains what happens to us when we lose it, when we get out of control. So let me maximize it here. Okay.
When customers are dissatisfied with your service, their feelings can run high. They may have emotional outbursts which seem impossible to deal with. Understanding why people have emotional outbursts can help us control them. Put simply, the amygdala is the emotional center of the brain and the cortex is the thinking area. In particularly stressful or intense situations, the amygdala takes over the cortex, preparing us for fight or flight, and it makes it difficult for us to use intelligence or reasoning. This is known as the amygdala hijack. During an amygdala hijack, adrenaline is released and stays in the body for about 18 minutes. Here's an example of the amygdala hijack in action. The amygdala hijack is characterized by 3 signs: a strong emotional reaction, a sudden onset, and regretting your actions later. Any strong emotion can trip off the amygdala and impair the cortex's working memory. Rationality is overwhelmed by emotions and stops us from being able to think clearly. If you have an emotional outburst, you can regain control by forcing the thinking part of your brain into action. By labeling your emotions, you can reduce their intensity and return some of the activity back to the cortex, thus increasing cognitive control. The technique of giving assertive feedback is a good way to force the thinking part of your brain to analyze the situation. To do this, you identify how you feel, what is the emotion, about what event or behavior caused it, and why. Why did that event cause that emotion? Simply identifying these things will help you think rationally about them and help you control the amygdala hijack. Saying these things out loud will let others know how you feel. You can also help others regain control if they are experiencing an amygdala hijack. Just label the emotions you think they are feeling by empathizing with them. To empathize with the other person, identify how they feel, what is the emotion, about what event or behavior caused it, and why. Why did that event cause that emotion? And say these things out loud to the other person. For example, I can tell you're frustrated that I was at lunch when you called. I realised you wanted a quick answer. Then pause to let your message sink in and to stop you from saying but. This forces the person to switch on their cortex in order to be able to understand your words. It also reassures them that you have an appreciation of their feelings and situation.
Great. So if you can share with me, what tips have you got from this video? What's something new that you have learned? Let me just pause this. So what it is so far you got from this video. And as you could see, guys, the emotional hijack is quite a nasty thing, right? Because if we have an emotional hijack, what is going to happen is we're going to be, in one way or another, stuck. It's going to be quite difficult for us to really deal with the challenges that we have in our life, because the emotions are taking over. So if we are able to start looking at, okay, so what it is that happens in there, Let me share this with you. 1 second. Okay. All right. Assume you can see this now, guys? Yeah? All right, cool. So let's go. Let's see first what you have written so far. I love what you're writing, Anonymous. You know, you know your stuff. I hope that you can come and join me. We're going to talk about the ignoring the emotion part. We will see how that would work. And staying fully present. Yeah. So when we go and look at the emotional hijack, what really happens, it's when the amygdala, our brain emotional processor. Now we have 2 amygdalas. And these amygdala in Old Latin means almond. They are the same size of an almond, interestingly speaking, and they are in our brain, and they are responsible for the emotional process. What happens is the emotional hijack, when it comes, it actually comes to protect us. It comes because it's saying that you are in danger, and your rational is not capable of dealing with that danger or threat. Cut that down and get your unconscious to react to it. It sends messages through what is called the reptilian brain, and these messages says that you are in danger. Heartbeats go up, respiration goes very fast, blood pressure go up, and it just gets us to be in a fight, flight, freeze mode. Now, if you come in and let me give you an example why emotional hijack is important for us. If you put your hand on a hot stove, on something that is really hot, yeah, and you go and say, your rational now is taking charge of it. You go, this is like about more than 120 degrees Celsius, and probably if I leave my hand for a few seconds, I'm going to get burned. What is going to happen? You're going to be burned. As simple as this. So your brain is quite intelligent in doing that. Once it senses a threat, it says to your rational, shut up, shut down, don't talk, let me do the job. And then your emotional hijack takes over. It gets you to remove your hand very quickly. If somebody cuts you on traffic, do you think about it? Do you process it? Do you put the logic into it? Do you check the risk? You make risk analysis, you evaluate. Well, you basically go right and left to avoid that kind of person who's cutting you on traffic because you are using your unconscious. And that's when your emotional hijack takes over, your unconscious takes over, and then you take a very impulsive reaction to protect you. The problem is that sometimes your brain cannot distinguish between this is a life-threatening situation or not. So when there is something that triggers you, it says to your brain, this is threat, let me take over. And then you do the stuff that you regret to others or to yourself. And that's when emotional hijack is quite an issue in there. Now, what is interesting here is the emotional hijack takes over and you start to have a fight, you start saying words that you don't normally say, you would maybe smack your kids, or you would, sometimes people would fire other people because of emotional hijack. Sometimes murder happens in that time. This is how dangerous emotional hijack or amygdala hijack is. Now, what do you need to do to release that? That is the question. How can you deal with emotional hijack when it happens? You are a human being at the end of the day, right? And these things happen. This is simply the reptilian brain in there. And it works like a reptile. As simple as that. And you know how reptiles are very, very fast? It does that because it wants to protect you, but sometimes it actually hurts you. Now, what is interesting here is you have the ability to take the control from the amygdala if you do something consciously for 6 seconds. 6 seconds can save you and save others. So some people would say, so you mean that, you know, when they tell us and teach us count from 1 to 10 when you are angry, I would say, you know why? Because your reptilian brain, I argue, can count from 1 to 10, right? So if you are angry at someone, your unconscious is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then bam, 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 bam. You're going to beat them up. What you need to do is you need to get your conscious on. So what do? One way, count from 3,333 backwards. That is something is going to engage your brain. Move, get yourself out of the situation. Maybe go and wash your face. Maybe go and take a shower. Maybe just take a time out, or maybe just go and walk in the garden if you have any garden somewhere near you. And then you can give the control to your rational, and then you can think about it. 6 seconds, guys. Before you take an action, have these 6 seconds. Sometimes it's like you want to write an email to someone. That email is tough. Write that email, wait for 6 seconds, go back to the email and read it again. Don't send it. Don't get your emotional hijack to send your emails, all right? Otherwise, you're going to get into trouble and get other people in trouble. And that's when we talk about emotional hijack, emotion and rational, it really puts us in a situation where we start looking at, does that mean there is this kind of emotion and rational, and then they need to interact with each other, and then I need to get my rationality always win over my emotion? The answer is no. It is not about heart versus mind. It's not about emotions versus rational. Because what some people do, they say, you know what, enough of my emotions. I'm done with it. I'm not going to use my emotions anymore. I'm going to suppress it. I'm not going to listen to it. I'm just going to use my brain. Some people would go, I have used my brain a lot. It got a lot of people away from me. I'm going to only use my heart. And guess what? You're still going to get in trouble. The way that I look at heart and mind, emotion and rational, I look at them as two eyes in one head. If you block one, you're going to see only part of reality. You need both. I remember when I was doing my master's, I had a professor, God bless his heart, Pierce Worth. And that was back in the UK. And one of the things that he was saying to us in the classroom, he said, the longest journey you can ever make is the journey from here to here. That is the longest journey you can ever make. Is the journey from your heart to mind and vice versa. It's when you get these two organs connect with each other, communicate with each other, talk, interact, discuss, and weigh things out. And this where the right emotional intelligence definition comes from. It comes in a way that when we blend these two things, which is what? Thinking and feeling, mind and heart. Emotional intelligence, according to 6 seconds, is effectively blending thinking and feeling so that you can develop optimal relationship with yourself and others, and you can make better relationships. It's really about getting these two talking to each other. Now, let me give you one tool that is probably going to help you out in many different ways. When we look at emotions and thinking, so thinking and feeling, right? This is the blending part. So one thing I want you to look at this diagram. And we have here, these are the feelings and these are the thoughts. We have another dimension, which is the actions. Our state is divided into 3 dimensions, just like a triangle. Thoughts, feelings, and actions, okay? Now, when we look at this and we look at where our misery come from, where our dissatisfaction may come from, where our dissonance come from, it's because these 3 things are not congruent. They are not in line. They are not in peace. They are simply fighting with each other in one way or another. And that's anonymous. That's a very good question, and that's what we're going to look at in a minute. You know, it's when you say that, you know, it is most of the time or always heart versus mind in any situation. How can we get? And that's what I mean by what you see right now, is to be in congruence. I'll give you an example. When you want to think of getting engaged or married to someone, and then all of a sudden somebody else shows up, and you go, oh, I don't know what to do now. My mind wants that person, and my heart wants this person. I don't know what to do now, right? And that's when we get stuck. Sometimes you want to move houses. Sometimes you want to move countries. Sometimes you want to take a degree in a certain major, and your heart says something to you, and your mind says another thing. What happens to you? You don't sleep, right? You feel stressed out. You go, oh my God, I don't know, I cannot make my decision. I'm stuck right now. What needs to happen? That kind of blending needs to happen for you to be able to be in peace and make a decision. So that is one part of this diagram. The other part of the diagram is, imagine you work as a salesman and you work in a company that sells products that you don't believe in. And that's the only job that you have. And then what happens? You only make enough money when you have your commission, right? You try to sell to people by not saying the truth. Your heart says, this is not right for me to do. Your mind goes in the middle, you know, trying to give you excuse, trying to go, oh yeah, maybe it's not right, but maybe it's okay, but it's just like in this kind of sort of back and forth. And your actions is you're actually not saying the truth at your job. What happens? You don't have a peaceful work time. And sometimes it haunts you to your house and you go, oh my God, this is not right. Why? Because what is inside is not congruent with what is happening outside. Your thoughts and feelings are not congruent with your action. And that's what you need to start looking at, of how can I get these 3 to talk to each other? I'm going to give you a process. I'm going to give you the way to deal with that. All right. So 6 seconds have a very, very, very interesting model that they call KCG. Now, KCG is know yourself, choose yourself, and give yourself. These are the 3 elements of dealing with your emotional intelligence. Now, under these elements, there are 8 competencies. We are not going to talk about them in details today. We are not even going to talk heavily about them. We're really going to look at a high level way of looking at this with a step by step. How can you deal with that accordingly? So let me explain further what that means. Know yourself is about self-awareness. It's about your ability to know what you feel, what are you going through, what triggers you, what your values are, what do you truly want, what are your qualities. Is to be aware of what you feel and what you do. All right, so this is the first part of know yourself. Now, the second part in there, which is, I'm going to show that in a minute, is choose yourself, which is your ability to make choices, which is about self-management. Now, you are aware of what is happening. How can I manage myself now? How can I manage my thinking? Because what happens in there is sometimes your thoughts goes automatically in there, and it's so difficult to handle them. Sometimes your emotions go really deep to the point that you cannot get out of it. That's when self-management shows up. That's when you need to self-manage yourself. And then the last one is self-direction. Give yourself. And this is really about looking at you long-term. This is about looking at just beyond logic. When you go and look at your choose yourself, what happens is you start to look at the logic, you weigh your options, and then what else? Do you just take a decision, or you really look at your long term? You look at other people. Here is a further, if you like, explanation of that, and it's step by step. Now, I would add one thing here, which is what do I want and what options do I have? So I'm giving you a bit of more tips here because you are a great audience, guys. And I love the awareness that you have. So when we look here at the steps, what can I do? Very, very simple. We're going to go into more details now. But what can I do when I have so much emotion in there? The first thing is you ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And then you ask yourself, what do I want and what options do I have? And then what is my empathic and principled long-term choice? When you weigh that, you're able to have a better decision that balances both. Now, this is a very high level, guys. I want you, and I want you to ask questions. I don't want to go into details when you don't ask questions, all right? And that's a way for you to engage, all right? So when we look at this slide, for example, these are the 8 competencies in there, just for you to have a look. Know yourself, choose yourself, give yourself. There are 8 competencies. If you go to the website of 6 Seconds, you probably will have more details on that. Now, so I just want to check with you guys. Shall we have 2 minutes break? I'm concerned with all the, if you like, the information that you're getting. I like to give people some breaks from the screen at least every hour, 2 to 3 minutes. So can we have 2-3 minutes break? Stay where you are, don't leave. Maybe you want to grab some nuts, some water, all this kind of stuff. Just be there, don't leave the screen. Stay where you are. Just let's have 2 minutes away from the screen, and then we come back. Can we do that, Jad? Yeah? Great. So let me have some background music. So when the music is off, you will know, guys, that we are starting. Okay? We're gonna play some background music. All right. All right, so let's have these 3 minutes and then we come back. right, guys? Welcome back. I hope everyone is back. I hope that you hear my voice, so you are able to come to your seat. Are we set? All right. Now let me share the screen with you. Okay. I assume you can see my screen now, right? Okay. Okay. So what we were talking about earlier, if I go back here. Okay, so if we can just recap very quickly. When we look at this, we look at know yourself, choose yourself, give yourself. And then we looked at, sorry, where is the, we as well looked at this, right? So I want you to remember that process. What am I feeling? What do I want and what options do I have? And what is my empathic and principled choice, all right? So when we move to know yourself, which is the first part, what is it about? It's about self-awareness. It's about clearly seeing what you feel and do. Now, the issue, guys, is when we get emotional, we don't see. Some of us don't see what is happening. When we have very high intense emotion, what happens to us is things become not clear, ambiguous. For some people, it's dark, and it's very difficult for us to see the options that are around us. And it gets bigger and bigger to the point that it's very difficult to make a sane decision in there. So self-awareness is really about being able to see what you feel and what you do. When you're able to see, you're going to be able to deal with it. But before doing that, you will need to know yourself. And when you know yourself, what is going to happen is it's going to help you to have better relationship with yourself, better relationship with others. It will help you to make decision making and leadership. Knowing yourself is the key of psychological, emotional, and social well-being, and it's a building block towards life as well as career success. Now, and that's what Socrates said. He said, to know thyself is the beginning of all wisdom. You know, one of the things, guys, is I always say that let's imagine that there is a Bugatti inside of us. There is a Ferrari inside of us. And if we are not able to deal with that Ferrari or Bugatti, we might hurt ourselves or others. Same concept if you give that Bugatti to a 16-year-old kid, what is going to happen? They might hurt themselves and others because they simply may not know we may not know the strength and the power of that vehicle, and they may not know the limitations of it. And that's the same thing. That's where the key to wisdom for us. Now, one thing that I'd like you to notice, guys, is, all right, make the screen bigger. Yeah, sure. I think that's better, right? Okay. So, all right, so there is a question here with a person just joining. If I repeat again, I have a master's in positive psychology, as well as certification in coaching. I'm a certified life coach and a certified assessor and practitioner of emotional intelligence. So these are the stuff that related to the course, and I have some other certifications as well related to personality stuff, but you know, we don't need to. I don't need to say my whole CV in here, right? So what we need to look at is knowing ourselves, because it's the key to all wisdom. Let me ask you a question, and one thing that we want to do is we are not going to dwell on questions, because I know that this is recorded, and I want to leave the questions to the end. But these questions that I'm going to be asking now, from now on, going to be rhetorical questions. I want you to think about them so you can reflect and make the picture clearer for you when it comes to emotional intelligence. Because if I just to speak without getting you thought process with me, it's going to be very difficult to grasp all of that material. So just ask yourself, who are you? How much do you know yourself? What makes you tick? What are your qualities? What are your personal values? What do you value the most? You know, most of the time when people say, who are you? You say, I am Mohammed. I am from Qatar, and I work as, and you know, and then you start giving you title. We are more than our job titles. We are more than just where we are from. You have a set of values, you have a set of characteristics, you have qualities that define who you truly are. That's what makes you a human being. So why do we need to know all of that? Because if you know your values, you will know what annoys you. Because most of the stuff that annoy you in life, that irritates you, are connected with your values. I'm going to give you one tip here, and then I'm going to move forward. For example, you are annoyed by people who lie a lot. You are annoyed by people who don't say the truth. What is your value? Honesty. You are annoyed by, let's say, irresponsibility. What's most likely your value? Responsibility. You are annoyed by people who are not kind, tough, violent. Maybe your value is kindness. So your values, one, are the source of your, can be the source of your disappointment, but also the source of your satisfaction and fulfillment. Your values are the source of your behavior as well. The reason why you got angry at that person is because you are an honest person. The reason why you go on this protest, because you value humanity, so on and so forth. So one of the things for you to look at when it comes to getting annoyed is what? Is your value. I'm going to explain that in a minute, all right? So know yourself, because it will help you out. Now, when one thing is we want to know ourselves, but the other thing we want to understand that thing that is called emotions. What does emotion mean? What's the definition of emotion? That's, a lot of people would say, emotions are feeling. Come on, it's common sense. No, emotions is emotion, and feeling is your experience of that emotion. So the emotion of sadness is there, but how you experience sadness is not the same way that I experience sadness. So your feeling is how you experience that emotion. I have a very sensitive daughter, Zahra, And the way that she experiences her emotions is not the same way that Aziz, her little brother, experienced the emotion, because they interpret them in different ways. Now, the other thing that we really need to look at, we need to look at our relationship with that emotion. When emotions come, how do we deal with it? Do we suppress it? Do we embrace it? How do we deal with these emotions? Do we try to just run away from it? So if that emotion is a person and you don't like dealing with it, how would you know it? How would you interact with it? How would you collaborate with it? If you don't know your emotion, if you don't allow yourself to interact with your emotion, you're not going to be able to collaborate with them. As simple as this. Now, let's look at what emotions mean in this video, and then I'm going to share my definition with you. Let me just right. I assume that you can see this, guys. Yeah. Okay.
When we hear the word emotion, most of us think of love, hate, happiness, or fear. Those strong feelings we experience throughout life. Our emotions are the driving force behind many of our behaviors, helpful and unhelpful. Just where do our emotions come from? Our brain is wired to look for threats or rewards. If one is detected, the feeling region of the brain alerts us through the release of chemical messages. Emotions are the effect of these chemical messages traveling from our brain through the body. When our brain detects a potential threat, our brain releases the stress hormones adrenaline and cortisol, which prepare us for a fight or flight response. When we detect or experience something rewarding, such as someone doing something nice for you, our brain releases dopamine, oxytocin, or serotonin. These are the chemicals that make us feel good and motivate us to continue on the task or behavior. In these instances, the feeling region of the brain kicks in before the thinking part. Sometimes the reactions of the feeling brain are so strong that it dominates our behaviors, and we're unable to think rationally in the moment. Our emotions hijack our brain. While many of our emotional responses happen subconsciously, our thinking can influence our emotions, and sometimes this can be unhelpful. Just thinking about something threatening can trigger an emotional response. This is where we can manage our emotions with conscious thinking. Our emotions play a powerful role in the way we experience the world. Understanding and regulating our emotions through our thoughts and behaviors can help us take greater control of our brain and achieve our goals.
Right. So what do you think emotions are? Does it make more sense now? I'm going to share with you now.
Sure. Skip this ad, just like you skipped out on buying that.
I'm going to share with you now. Let me just stop the sharing and share the presentation again.
Okay. Look, sorry, I know you were just about to watch another YouTube video, but before you go, I've got a quick, important message for you. Notice you came over to our website and you didn't pick up the videos commercial lifetime license here. But if you're not interested in creating stunning video animations that engage and instantly grab.
All right, guys. So what is emotion? What do they mean? What's the definition of emotion? So I want you to have your questions for later, guys. So hold them. We're going to have the last 10 minutes to answer your questions. So I'm going to go now to the definition of emotions. In simpler terms, emotions are electrochemical impulses that are similar to hormones that create physiological changes. We have three main things here in the definition of emotion. The first thing is chemical, electrochemical, and physiological changes. Okay? You know when you get the EEG on somebody's brain, and it gives a reading, and that reading is electrical reading. It gives waves in there, right? And these waves will change depending on what emotions we feel. Different emotions will show different reading in the EEG. So that is one. So your emotion has electricity in it. Electricity in terms of shooting from your neurons to your body. So that is one. Two, it's chemical. How will your emotions be chemical? What is the stress hormone? It's cortisol. When you are stressed, you get cortisol come out. So we have stress hormones. We have fight and flight hormone, which is the adrenaline, for example. Adrenaline is when you fight, it just gets you not to think of anything, and it gives you all the power in the world, right? And then you have cortisol, the stress hormone. It beats you up if it's released more than enough, because it can get your hair down, it can get some stuff on the skin, on the face. It can do wonder in a bad way. It can even hurt your organs. It can control and lower your immune system. That's what the cortisol, the stress hormone. But you have the happy hormones as well. You have the serotonin, you have dopamine, you have oxytocin. All of these hormones, they actually are influenced by your emotions, and they influence your emotion. In fact, we have the office manager, Lani, and God bless her heart, she's going to give birth to her son, I think, in 2 days' time. And I said, how do you feel about it? She goes, oh my God, I'm so anxious. And then she goes, I think it's because of the hormone. I said to her, but you actually can control hormone. When you change your feeling, you're going to get some hormones in there that is going to get your body to be more balanced. So emotions are electricity. They are chemistry as well. Yes, so they are chemicals, and they create physiological changes. How does that happen? If you are relaxed, what happens to your heartbeat? It goes slow, you breathe slowly, you're laid back, everything is fine, but we are not under stress. What happens to your body? And that's what we mean. Your thoughts and feelings affect your action. It affects your behavior. They are interconnected. If we understand that, then we will be able to be better at dealing with these emotions, dealing with those hormones. Sometimes a hot bath might help, because it's going to lower your blood pressure, hopefully. It's going to lower your heartbeats. It's going to lower your respiratory speed. So it's going to do all this kind of stuff. Let me give you a practical tip now, away from the theory. One way to do that, to take charge of your emotion, and I'm again talking on the high level, guys, all right, is to see your emotion and to hear your emotion. The first thing is see them. What do I feel right now? What's going on in my body? Where is that emotion sitting? Believe it or not, emotions sit in different parts of their body when they show up. You're going to feel like boom, 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 boom here, or you're going to feel like here, or you're going to feel stuff on your shoulder, on your stomach. Just see what is happening, observe what is happening, and name your emotion. Name it to tame it. We have a lot of naming for the emotion. You just can go and Google and search the feeling wheel. If you go and just Google the image for that, the feeling wheel, that gets you the ability to look at different emotions that you have. And when you name the emotion, you tame it. You're able to deal with it in a much better way. The other step for you to do is to hear your emotion. Your emotion comes for a reason. There is a source for that emotion. I got angry. What's the source of anger? Don't just react. See it. I feel angry. My anger feels like a boiling volcano lava in my head. This is what my anger looks like for me when I see it. And then it might go a little bit more because you're observing and you're noticing it right now. And then you go, why am I angry? What's the source of it? Because this little kid lied to me. All right. So what does that mean? I value honesty. And that's when you hear this emotion, your anger tells you that there is something extremely wrong happening, which is that little kid is not telling the truth. Don't react to it don't react to it impulsively, because you might do stuff that you may regret. Just hang on there, because we're going to look at the other step to basically deal with it. And that step really takes us to choose yourself. You know, we talk about self-management. Now we're going to talk about self-awareness, and now we're talking about self-management, right? So now you are aware of your emotion. You saw the emotion. You hear the emotion. What do you need to do now? You need to ask yourself, what do I want? What options do I have? With that kid, what do I want? I want him to tell the truth. What options do I have? Is shouting at him is an option. But then you weigh that option, you go, is shouting at him going to make him tell the truth next time? Most probably not. All right, what other options I have? Maybe I can talk to him about it. That's one option. What other options I have? Maybe I can tell him a story about it. And then you weigh your options so you are able to achieve what you want with the best option in there. Yeah? Does that make sense so far, guys? Hope it makes sense, because we're going to move forward and we're going to build on that now so I can finish the process. Now, what happens with this in there, it might not be as easy as possible. Do you know why? Because we don't feel we are free to act. That emotion in there, but you made me hit you back. You made me shout at you. You made me be rude. We don't feel free to control it. I'm going to give you a small example about freedom, and it's actually a quote as well, with a small story by the person who actually said the quote. This is Viktor Frankl. Some of you may be aware or heard of him. He said, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. What does he mean by that? Viktor Frankl, my friends, he was a psychiatrist at the time of Hitler. And his family, his daughter and his wife, were taken away from him before his eyes to the Holocaust. They were burnt. And then he was taken to the Nazis' prison. What is interesting about that is he was being tortured with other people by the prisoners. And one of his famous quotes was, you can hurt to the prisoners. He was saying to them, you can hurt my body, but you can never hurt my soul. You can hurt my body, but you can never hurt my soul. It's the same thing with your dignity. It's the same thing with your integrity. People can put your face down, but they can never put your dignity down unless you give it to them. A lot of people feel present in freedom. And a lot of people feel free in presence. We have been created to be free, but it's an attitude and it's a muscle that needs to be built. And again, on a nutshell, this is about what it is that I want and what options do I have. But there is one thing to make this more realistic, is we need to be aware before making these choices, before even thinking of these choices. We need to be aware of how much freedom do I have? What is within my control? What is within somebody else's control, which is the influence dimension, or what is not within my control, which is the mourning dimension. If it's not within your control, mourning is not going to help. It's not as simple. Complaining is not going to help. It's going to even make it worse. If it's within your control, do something about it. If it's within somebody's control, just be aware that it's within somebody else's control, so you can go and influence them. Once you start looking at this diagram of what is in my hand, what is in somebody that I know's hand, and what is not within my hand, and then experience your freedom in there. What is not your hand, or what you need to do is maybe you accept it, maybe you need to deal with it, because you're going to be wasting your time and looking at what is not within your hand. Where the focus goes, the energy flows. If your focus is in mourning, your whole energy is going to go into mourning. If you focus in control, your whole energy is going to go on how can I make the most out of this. And you're going to make a lot out of it. During this time, for example, COVID, what can we do? Somebody's going to say, we can do nothing. What do you mean we can do nothing? This kind of course, AFG College is doing their part to offer whatever they can do for the community, for their staff. We are looking at what is within our control and what is within our influence cycles. And then we work accordingly to make the most out of what we have. Where the focus goes, the energy flows. Focus on what is within your hands. So, I know I'm jumping through a lot of slides because I am, guys, again, giving you a very high level of what this is all about. So when we already looked at know yourself, what do I feel? See and hear my feeling. And then we looked at what? Choose yourself, self-management. What do I want? What is within my control? What options do I have? And then there is another dimension. The other dimension, Nasser, there is your question is very good. I want you to keep it for the end, all right? So the other dimension is giving yourself. And giving yourself really is about looking at what people need. That's one. And then the other one is looking at what your purpose is. If we just, for the time being, we look at that friend, because the people needs is not really within these slides that are shown here, but I'm just gonna connect the dots for you. So you look at that kid who made you angry. He said, how do I feel? I feel angry. See it, it's boiling volcano lava in my head, and hear it. I'm angry because this kid lied to me. I value honesty. And then after that, you go, okay, what do I want? I want to teach him how to say the truth. What options do I have? And then you said I may tell him a story. All right. Now we go to the empathy part, which is the people side, the give yourself, because it has two dimensions in give yourself. You look at what people need, what it is that made them do what they did. Why did he lie to you? Does he need safety? He lied because he's not safe. So you really look beyond at the reason and source of other people's behavior. You start to be curious about it. So you can empathize with them and connect with them. And even when you tell the story, you tell them part of the story is that kid lied, but in his head, he lied because he was afraid of people. He didn't want to say the truth because he was afraid of the reaction. So when you go and empathize with that person, you will know where he's or she's coming from. You will be able to deliver the message in the right way because they will feel understood. They will feel connected with you. The other part of give yourself is to look at your long term, is to look at your purpose. In that example, again, we basically say, what is the purpose that I have towards this kid? I want him to be a responsible man, a man of honor. When you have this kind of purpose in there towards that little kid, your whole reaction is going to change. You're going to be more empathetic, more connecting, you're going to speak from your heart because you're looking forward. The same, and I'm going to give you another example with COVID, guys. But just when we finish that, I'm going to give you another example with using these steps, even when dealing with the situation right now. Tony Robbins said, activity without purpose is the drain of life. When you do anything without meaning, you feel tired, you feel drained. What do you need to do? You really need to connect to the meaning that you have. So when we look at all of this and bring it together, so we can bring it home if you like. Know yourself, choose yourself, give yourself. Using these steps can help us move forward. And I'm going to give you an example with COVID right now. So let's say, for example, you have, not you, I hope it's not you, so somebody is going through all of this stuff and is losing their job, right? Just imagine what kind of emotion going to go in there, what kind of thoughts going to go in there. A train of emotions and thought, oh my God, what I'm going to do? I'm worried about me, about my kids, about my family, the people I care for. I'm anxious, I'm depressed, I'm not going to make money, I have loan, I have this, liabilities, all this kind of stuff. All of these emotions going to be running in your body. What do you need to do first? One is you want to see that emotion. I'm anxious, I'm depressed. Look at all the complexity of these emotions, write them down. Notice where they are in your body. Write that down again. It's like lava, it's in there, my head, my stomach, my chest, my back, my shoulders. Write all these stuff down. When you write them down, when you notice them, I guarantee you most of the time you're going to feel relieved. Even a little bit. So that's one. Two, you're going to ask yourself, what do I really want in this situation? I want to make money. That's what I want. I want to make a living, right? And then you're going to go, what options do I have? I can apply for a job. I can look at my CV and make it better. I can connect with a friend of mine who said that he had an idea to make a business. And then you start looking at your options and weigh your options. I can go back home if you are living abroad. I can do this, and just put your brainstorming options. And then have you give yourself, which is what? Think about your family, empathize with them, connect with them. assure them, and then look at your bigger purpose. What is the meaning that you have? You want to contribute to this earth. You want to make a greater stuff. Connect with that meaning and then revise your options. Your options may change. And you know what? You may come up with greater options. Just make the most out of what you have, guys. I am simplifying the process. I fully understand that. More reading and more probably research within the self will be needed for you to be able to manage these kind of stuff even more. So I am coming to the end right now of this, and I want to leave it for your questions. So I am going to start with Nasser's question, which was about public speaking, right? How do you suggest I can get over it? The first thing you need to look at is we are not afraid of public speaking. We are really freaked out with all of these emotions that come to us. So when you look at emotional intelligence again, how do I feel? Just get that on first. I feel anxious. I feel terrified. Where is that feeling? Look at these feelings where they are. What do I want? I want to speak in public. What options do I have? In the options part, you will need to build your skill. You will need to go and watch YouTube. You will need to go and attend maybe an online course at this time. You know, especially you cannot probably attend face-to-face. You may just prepare something and present it in front of your family. Even if your family are not around, maybe you present it on Zoom to, you know, and Teams in front of them. And then you go and look at empathy. It's not really here. So you empathize with your audience, probably what my audience need, what do they want? How can I create a better content for them? And what is my purpose? Why do I want to speak in public? Connect with that meaning. You want to speak in public because of a reason. Connect with that reason. You want to pass, you want to graduate, you want to let's say have a great job, you want to have a big massive family, beautiful family, not necessarily massive, you want to have your dream car. Connect with these reasons. They're going to give you more energy, and practice as much as you can. All right, Nasser, so let's get more more questions in there. And simply see what do you have. So let's wait for your questions. We still have good 10 minutes. That's great for your Q&A. If you don't have a question, guys, maybe you can share what have you learned so far. What is your learning? Let me see. You cannot always feel emotions. Something just happens. So in emotional intelligence, we do emotional intelligence assessment. And in that assessment, you exactly see where you are at. So sometimes if people cannot be aware of emotion, they will need more of emotional awareness in there. And emotional intelligence, guys, is a muscle. Just remember, it's a muscle. It needs to be built. And it will take time to be built. And you really need to be aware, need to practice to be built. So that's what we need to do. We need to look at, if you like, your emotions, see them, build that kind of muscle, so you are able to deal with your emotions in a better way. One way is you name the emotion. Name it to tame it. Name your emotions so you're able to tame them. and then listen to them again. Okay, so we have another question here as we're waiting for the rest. How can we deal with angry people? Very good question. Very good question, Fatma. Angry people, they get angry. So one thing is we need to understand is angry, impulsive people, they are not emotionally intelligent. So that's the first thing that we need to know. They are not emotionally intelligent enough. That's why they're expressing their anger in the wrong way, right? So that's the first thing we need to know. The other thing that we need to bear in mind is we need to understand what is making them angry. So you see their emotion, and then you explore the emotion. You empathize with them. Sometimes they may need, before you empathize, sometimes they may need time off. Sometimes they may need space. You give them what they need, and then, I mean, you say to them, so for example, one of the things that I would say to people when they're angry, I would, especially the close people to me, I would say, it seems that you're very angry because of, let's say this happened. I understand that. And what I would suggest is maybe we can talk about it when you have your own space. And so this is one of the ways is you recognize, you see their emotion, you hear the emotion, and then you need to respond accordingly. It depends on the context. So if you are, for example, in let's say customer service, you will need to take an action. You will need to do something in relation to help them out. So maybe give them a compensation, maybe bring them some water, maybe, you will need to respond to it. Otherwise, it will be quite difficult for them to cooperate with you. And then you talk to them, but talk to them from the perspective of heart. Just understand where they're coming from. All right. So another question that we have is, let's see. How can we get over childhood traumas? Is there a modern way of getting over them? So there are different of, I would say, cognitive behavioral therapy. So counselors might help, psychological counselors might help. You have something that is called, and then there is something that is, they call it the inner child. So maybe you can search, you Google that, the inner child. And there are ways, different kind of people, they started talking about how can you heal these childhood traumas. But this is not, I'm not an expert in the inner child part, which I would just direct you to Google and YouTube it. Then the other thing that I would like you to look at is I want you to restructure that trauma. Turn it into growth, turn it into learning. Look at the growth and wisdom that you had from that trauma. Look at the gift that that trauma gave you. That's what I would say. If you connect with that trauma in a way that look at the gift that it gave you, then you might restructure the way that you look at it, hopefully. The other way of doing it is write, journal, write your experience. When you write your experience, it will as well help you to vent, get it out of your system. So that's another way of dealing with traumas as well. Write these feelings down, write these thoughts down. Let's see another question. Is the gut feeling part of the emotional intelligence, or how do they relate? Very, very nice question. It's a bit tricky because it's yes and no. So yes is your body sends you a lot of messages. Your body is very sensitive. So when you see somebody that is not that good, or somebody that is not a nice person, and you don't know them, your body senses that. It senses their energy, it senses their attitude, and it gives you these kind of feeling. I would say, listen to your gut. You don't have to do what your gut says, but pay attention to it, listen to it, reflect on it, see and hear what is there. And sometimes your gut gives you a lot of inspiration, a lot of wisdom that can get you to really great places. Does body language influence emotional intelligence in a certain way? As I said, it's the TFA, thoughts, feelings, and action. So your body language is part of the, let's say, the equation. When you deal, react, interact with people, your body is going to show something based on what you feel and what you think. Sometimes you would feel hesitant, your body is going to show that. Your body language is going to show that. Somebody you're confident, sometimes you're confident, your body language is going to show that. And that's how body language connect with, if you like, emotional intelligence. How can people with a bipolar disorder acknowledge their feelings and deal with them? I really wouldn't be able to answer this question because, again, it's out of my scope. You will need to consult a good psychiatrist and therapist. What I would say is one of the ways that is going to help you guys a lot is mindfulness meditation. YouTube that, search it. There is body scan meditation. There is a lot of guided mindfulness meditation that can help in mental health. And doctors now start to doctors they now start to what do you call it? They start to give this as a prescription to people. Inshallah, all the best, Nasser, all the best. Are there assessment tools used for emotional intelligence? Which do you think are useful? Well, the emotional intelligence, I am an assessor, so I'm a certified assessor. So only certified assessors with 6 seconds have the, let's say, they have the ability to give people assessments. So there are, you can Google, but one of them is the 6 seconds, and I am a certified assessor. So if you can connect with me, I already have put my email address in there. I can I can direct you. I can, you know, let's say, help you take that assessment if you like. Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, I think that's it for us. It's 4 o'clock, so I would like to thank every single person who attended today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your engagement. I really do appreciate it. I enjoyed the session. Your feedback, insight made it really great. And I'd like as well to thank AFG College and University of Aberdeen family. I'd like to thank them for giving me this opportunity to share part of emotional intelligence with you guys. Do connect with me. These are my contact details. The number, you need to add the Qatar code, and that's my Instagram. You can connect me on there with my email as well. It will be more than a pleasure to attend to your inquiries. If you want the presentation, I can as well share it with you if you send me an email. So just send me an email. I will share with you the presentation as well with the links of the videos that you have seen. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. Jad, Naveen, thank you very much for the organization. Yeah, you have been wonderful. Thank you, and hope to meet you soon, guys. Thank you very much.